Oh. Hi everyone, this is Natalie Ellis. Sorry that I'm late. Obviously, doing therapy is what I do full time in my private practice, and at times it's very hard to adhere to a schedule depending on what my clients have going on. So I was supposed to be on live since 1 o'clock, but other things came up and I wasn't able to be live. I'm working on being consistent, so I want to make sure no matter what that on Wednesdays I say a little something about whatever that topic is that I want to address. And then I see that there's a new thing on this Instagram Live, which is a question mark, so I'll have to figure out how to use that. But, the topic that I wanted to briefly talk about is introspection. Again, the majority of what I do is sit here and see clients, 5 to 6 clients a day, about 4 to 5 days a week. And so a lot of the things that I'm seeing is how clients are struggling with, again, their emotions, whether it's their anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's frustration, hopelessness, or they're struggling with how to manage their relationships with their spouse, with their partner, with their children, or figuring out how to deal with situations at their jobs, and then ultimately figuring out how to also manage themselves. And so with that, I wanted to talk about introspection. And when I looked up in the dictionary, introspection, Merriam-Webster dictionary describes introspection as a reflective looking inward. Reflective looking inward. An examination of one's own thoughts and feelings. And I'm going to include also not just our thoughts and feelings, but also our actions, and as well as the unspoken things within us, our body sensations as well. Because sometimes we have feeling or gut, right? And so, introspection is a reflective looking inward. And so the reason I wanted to kind of talk about this, because that's what therapy is all about. Okay? Therapy is not this magical thing. Therapy is not this mysterious thing. Therapy is not something only certain people need to go to. Therapy is not just for people that are sick. Therapy is not just for people that are well. Therapy is an opportunity to do introspection. And that could be done in so many different levels, depending on what you need. And in my practice, because I believe that therapy is something that's needed, having a therapist as part of your support network is something that we all need, right? And so we have dentists as part of our network of support to make us be well. We have medical doctors, we have OBGYNs, we have eye doctors. We have different people that is a part of our support network. We have our church, our pastors. We have multiple people that help us be our best, right? Whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually. And so therapists can also be part of that for individuals. And that's how I talk about therapy to my clients that come in. Really normalizing what's going on with them and how do we do the work. And the work that we're doing in therapy is all about introspection. Okay? It's all about looking inward. Okay? So I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if this works. Oh, okay. I'm trying to ask a question. Okay. How do you introspect? I don't know if that's the best way to write that, but we'll do it that way. And I apologize. And I'm not even sure how this question thing. I'll have to read up on that. But introspection. And so that's what therapy is pretty much about. And so my job as a therapist, and I love another colleague of mine, she gave the example of a car, and that she is simply the GPS. And I love that example when she used that. Thanks, JD. JD used that example. And so I'm the navigator, right? And so you're the one driving, you're the one who knows where you want to go, and I'm simply a guide, a navigator to help you get there. So that was just such a great example. And the key is introspection when it comes to therapy. And so again, how do we look inward? What are the things that we need to do to look inward in ourselves to figure out how to be our best and how to live our best life? Because that is the ultimate goal. Whether it's dealing with our depression, whether it's is managing our anxiety, whether it is about improving our relationships, whether it's about being more successful at work, however, whatever the goal that we're trying to accomplish and achieve, we all have to kind of take a step back and look inward. And so what made me think of this topic, sometimes it's hard to think of topics beforehand, which is something I do want to do so people can participate more. Because then if they kind of know the question beforehand, then they could offer input and do different things. So I'm trying to be more proactive in that manner. But just today, again, all the clients that I have, but one particular client today, introspection was something that we really needed to focus on and work on, because for her, because of her upbringing and things that she's been through, she tends to do a lot of self-blame and takes on a lot of responsibility, which comes with a lot of guilt, a lot of blame, a lot of worthlessness, a lot of hopelessness. And in that introspection, looking inward to see, why is that? Why do we take it on? What does that do for us? Or what did it do for us? Right? Because again, a lot of our behaviors as adults, a lot of the patterns that we've developed as adults were patterns that was there from childhood, right? So our childhood, the environment of our childhood, and of course there's the biological piece. So I always want to make sure there is biological pieces to who we are as well. And then there's our environment too. So with the mixture of our biological and the mixture of our environment, we experience things. Right? And based on these experiences, we form meanings. We form meanings of, what does this experience say about me? Okay? What do I need to do in order to deal with these type of things? And we create patterns, we create thinking errors, we create all these things to have an understanding. Okay? And sometimes it's healthy, sometimes it's not healthy. Right? And so when we are, in this particular case with this individual, growing up in a home where it was never good enough, she was never good enough, then there's a lot of other behaviors and other thinking patterns that developed. Right? And here we are at a situation where got to take on the world, got to take on other people's responsibilities, and where it has become such a natural thing to make others feel better, right? And so she's taken on a lot of other people's issues, right? And the need to control. And so because of that, there's a sense of hopelessness that she experiences. There's a sense of not worthiness that she experiences because she's wanting to make everything okay and wanting everything to be right, or feels she needs to control everything, and finding out through her experiences that doesn't exist. Okay? And so that creates frustrations, anxiety, depression for her. And in doing this work of introspection, because this is what, again, therapy is all about, is how do we look inside of us to figure out what is going on? What is going on with us that's kind of blocking us to be our best? That's kind of blocking us to do the things that we need to do. What's going on? And so when we do this introspection, this reflective looking inward, it's about taking the time to ask ourselves certain questions and do the work that needs to be done. And so one particular assignment I had for this particular client is if she were to write a letter to herself, and interestingly, writing a letter to herself at different stages of her life, because she still tends to blame herself for things that she did when she was 5, 6, 7, 20, she still, at 40, blames herself for things that happened a long time ago, right? Blames for decisions she's made that she really had no control over, that really wasn't hers to take the blame on. And so we're processing that and talking about that. And in that introspective work that we're doing, this looking inward, as an adult or as a 40-year-old, how can she go back and talk to that 5-year-old self of hers? What would she say to that 5-year-old self of hers, right? In this introspection, when we're looking inward in terms of these behaviors and actions and feelings that we're going through, these emotions, how can we challenge ourselves, right? And so that was her assignment, to first show herself compassion, because oftentimes that doesn't happen. Once we start having these behaviors and once we start engaging in these patterns from young, there's a lot of guilt if we don't do certain things. There's a lot of, again, self-blame, a lot of these things that's happening. And so in most cases, she doesn't show herself compassion, which is, again, where the depression, the anxiety, the need to control, all that stuff happens too. So not the first step for her, but one of the steps for her in doing that introspective work is to take a step back and kind of observe as much as she can the 5-year-old self of hers, the 7-year-old, the different times of her life where she continues to this day blames herself for certain things, and kind of have that conversation with herself. Now that she knows something different than she did, and she's going through therapy, going through her work, what could she tell herself? What could she tell her younger self? Okay, and to no longer hold on to those weight, or the heaviness of the blame that she was carrying. And so that's an example of an introspection that I wanted to talk about. But definitely, again, my key is helping people understand that therapy is not for, or should I say, therapy is for everyone. Therapy is for everyone, and therapy is all about doing the introspective work to get ourselves at a better place and to get ourselves healthy, to accomplish the things that we're wanting in our lives, personally, emotionally, physically, mentally, in our careers, in our relationships, in everything that we're trying to do. So definitely. So any questions? I see there's a couple people that's joined. Do you guys have any questions in regards to introspect? So I don't think you guys were here when initially. So introspection is a reflective looking inward, an examination of one's own thoughts and feelings. And so any questions about that, or any thoughts about that you guys may share? I see She's So Beautiful and V-Lady79 joined us. Okay. So if you guys don't have any questions about that, that's all that I'm going to do for today. And so thank you so much for joining me today in talking about introspection. And like I said, I want to make sure that I'm consistent in coming every Wednesday to do Ask the Therapist, and I will be more proactive in bringing out topics so people can participate and be more involved in the topic. So thank you so much for joining, and I'll talk to you all next time on Ask the Therapist. Please remember, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have a private practice in the Decatur, Georgia area. Please feel free to reach out to me on my different social media pages. Okay? So I can relate. Okay? Yeah. Definitely a lot of people are going through a lot of things, I put a post about this a while ago. Sometimes we see something, we see other people, and we're thinking, oh my God, everything looks so well. But, we all have different ways of dealing with the things that we go through. And the way that we can, not seek help, but the way that we can heal and go through some of the things we're going through is to actually be heard, I guess. There's a quote by Maya Angelou. So it's February, and it's Black History Celebration time. And so I'm trying to find mental health quotes from Black people in history. And there's a quote from her that said something like, the worst anguish or the worst pain is holding on to something that needed to be heard. And the way she said that, that just seems so powerful to me. And I think with a lot of people, that's usually the case. They're coming in with an anguish and a pain that they've held on to for so long. And once they let it out, it's like, oh, wow. Feels better, but then, oh, wow. Oh, you've been through that too. Oh, wow. There's so many good things that come out of the sharing, the releasing and the letting go of some of that stuff. But oftentimes, because of our own shame and our own insecurities, we hold on to these things. But definitely, talking about it, seeking help, going to therapy, definitely opens doors to healing. So I'm definitely recommending that. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I think a lot of people can relate. So thank you for sharing. And if there's no other questions, definitely I'm going to end this for today. Again, we're here every Wednesday. The exact time, it's hard to tell because, again, I'm finding that I run over with clients because whatever stuff is going on. So, but the goal is for me to come every Wednesday between this time, around noon, between noon and 2, 3 o'clock. And thank you so much for joining me today. Okay, bye-bye.